So the topics that we're going to go over today include, I want to start going over some, current trends in remote work. We'll talk about some of the top career fields and companies in the remote and flexible job market based on FlexJobs data. We want to go into a little bit of how to help you avoid a scam, a work from home scam. Those have sort of crept up over the last few years. So we'll talk about some key things to look out for along those lines. And we're also going to kind of go through how you can execute applying for remote jobs by letting you know things that you should include on your resume. And as I mentioned, we will have that Q&A. All right. So let's go ahead and get started and just talk about our trends that we are seeing. And before we dive into some of those trends, I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with what a flexible job actually is. A flexible job can be a formal arrangement. It can be an informal arrangement, but really what it is, it's a catch-all phrase that means any type of job that's going to allow some type of flexibility. Now, the flexibility might be in the hours that you work. So you might be able to choose your schedule. The flexibility might be in the location that you work. You might be able to work from home, which is remote. It might be a job status, whether you are freelance or employee, and it might be some flexibility in the hours that you work. And really the bottom line here is a flexible job is anything outside of a traditional 9-to-5 in-office position. So I'm going to ask you, if you want to participate in the chat, to think about what your ideal flexibility is. So here are some different ideas for flexibility. We just covered most of them on the other slide, but you might want to have a remote job, only remote. That's your ideal flex. You might want to have a part-time job with flexible hours, and that is your ideal flex. Or maybe you want to be a freelance, so you maintain almost complete control over when and how you work. You might want to be a remote full-time employee. So there are a lot of different flexibility options for remote work. So in the chat, go ahead and add what your ideal flex is. Okay, we're starting to see some things come in. Of course, we see remote, we see some flexible. And yep, that's all what we typically see when we ask this question. So if we talk about these remote and hybrid trends with flexible work, the last 4 years have really changed the course of remote work for the long term and how we conduct remote work. And that's what we're seeing. Looking at where we were in 2019 and into the beginning of 2020, under 5% of U.S. employees worked from home full-time, according to the Census American Communities Survey. However, as of June of last year, 66% of U.S. employees do work from home, either full-time or in a hybrid model. And if those who are working in a hybrid model, the average number of days they work remotely per month is just under 6. Many experts are predicting that there will be 36.2, so just over 36 million Americans working remotely in 2025. Now, so this is a over 400% increase from pre-pandemic levels when there were only about 7 million people working remotely. Remote and hybrid opportunities have really grown over the last 4 years, which you likely know, and it's not going away. I will say, while 2023 did provide steady remote job options throughout the year, and we saw that on our site, larger workplace trends such as layoffs, return to office mandates, slowed hiring across different industries, and an overall cooling of the job market. This was reflected with a slight decrease in the overall number of remote openings. We've also seen an increase, a pretty significant increase in people searching for remote jobs and wanting remote jobs. So these types of jobs are really competitive. You might have been experiencing that as part of your search already. We know that any listing that is for a remote or hybrid job is attracting 3 to 7 times more applicants than in-person roles. But taking time to learn about how you can navigate some of these things and participating in building the resources for your job search is really going to help you increase your likelihood and probability that you'll land a remote job or the type of job you're looking for sooner. A couple things that we have noted, or that in researching for this presentation, I found, again with Zippia, their data suggests that 74% of companies plan to use or implement some kind of hybrid model. Now, this is going to vary greatly from company to company, as well as from team to team within that company. So a hybrid model might be, if you need to work from home because of some situation, you can. It might be you can 1 day a week or more. It's very different amongst different companies. 16% of companies are actually fully remote. And like many of you who have joined us today, you're probably one of the 68% of people or Americans or wherever you are in the world who want to work fully remote. And in our surveys, many people would say they would take a pay cut in order to keep working or to find a remote job. So earlier, when you added in the chat the type of flexible work that was important to you, many of you said remote, which is not a surprise to me, because about 80% of professionals will say that remote work is their most desired type of work flexibility. And that's ahead of a flexible schedule or being part-time. So because of that, I kind of wanted to go through some of the top remote fields and the top remote job titles on the FlexJobs site that we've seen. And so you can see in the fields, computer and IT work, accounting and finance, marketing, medical and health, and project management really round out the top 5. The first 3 tend to be very robust historically in terms of remote job opportunities. But we do see remote opportunities, of course, in these other areas. For remote job titles, some of this matches up, right? Accountant, executive assistant, financial analyst, product manager. If we go down the list more, software engineer, customer success manager, accounting manager, product designer, and writer. Now, the idea here is not to show you these 10 and to have you think that these are the only 10 remote job fields or remote job titles. That's not the case. I'm going to show you the variety of industries as well as job titles, and hopefully it's helping you, sort of brainstorm and think about what might be a good option for you, even if your specific job title isn't on this list. All right. So in addition to the wide variety of job titles and career fields we just talked about, there are so many different companies, large and small, that offer remote and flexible work options right now. So what I've got on the list here are the top companies for this year offering remote jobs. And as you're noticing, if you're reading through some of these, they are from all different industries, including healthcare, technology, education, staffing services, and communications, just to name a few. So there's quite a variety here. We'll go a little bit more in depth on how you can focus your job search on companies that offer this type of work, but I did want to show this as part of the trends that we're seeing in remote and flexible work offerings. All right, so let's talk about your specific job search and how you can pinpoint specific job listings and companies for the type of work that you are looking for. First, I think this is important to say that location matters. When you are looking for remote jobs, this was not intuitive to me when I first started looking for remote jobs. Only 5% of remote jobs are actually work from anywhere jobs where you could work from anywhere. 95% of posted remote jobs do have some level of geographic requirement. we always assume, or at least I did assume, that if I was working remotely, I could work from anywhere. That's the part that's true. But companies have to follow their city, state, and country employment laws and regulations and tax laws and regulations. They might want you to be in a certain location to be easily able to travel. So they might need you to live near a big airport. If you are in a licensed profession in the US and across the world, certain professions need licenses, and those licensing requirements are different from state to state or country to country. So this is why remote jobs have a location requirement. And we share this because you can save yourself a lot of time by making sure you know the job that you are applying for is available to you where you are geographically. Okay, so we are going to talk about how you can find specific companies for this type of work. We recommend identifying maybe a list of 10 companies that you'd like to work for to establish a more laser-focused search for yourself. But here are some ways to do that. Now, we have over 57,000 companies in the FlexJobs database, and you can find them in lists on our site. We have this company guide, the top 100 companies with remote jobs, which we're talking about a little bit today. And each or other lists like the top 100 companies for green jobs, the top 100 companies for project management jobs, the top 100 companies for remote jobs in a certain location. All right. So there's a lot of information that you'll be able to find on the FlexJobs site about each company. You'll be able to learn what their remote work policies are, current job openings, and each listing on the FlexJobs site links to the social pages like LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook if they have it, as well as the company website. So this is kind of going to be a good place to start your research for the types of companies you would like to work for. However, you can also look for clues on the company career pages. So once you find a company you're interested in, we recommend you go to their career page. You look for information on their benefits, what they say about work-life balance, look for flexible work sections or just some of those keywords. And since 2020, we've seen more companies sort of be more public about what these options are for their employees. You also want to think about companies that you've had contact with and interacted with over the years. Maybe it's products and services you love, former vendors that you've worked with at other positions. And if remote work is on your list of ideal flexibility, you are opening your options up to include many companies outside of your geographic area. Now, I know I said that remote jobs have a location requirement, but many companies that can hire remote employees can hire from, multiple states or all across the US, or sometimes even multiple companies. So that does exist. Just because a remote job has a location requirement, it does not mean it's going to be the city and state where you reside always. All right. Don't forget about alumni from your alma mater, because they might have insights to share about their own workplace. And also a lot of alumni associations have their own internal job board that you would have access to. So that's the company approach. And that's a critical part of your job search navigation. Also, you want to be able to find the right types of job listings. And there are some great resources for this type of work out there. Of course, FlexJobs is one. We have pre-screened flexible jobs on our site, scam-free, ad-free. So that's what you're going to get when you use FlexJobs. However, there are smaller, more specialty job search sites that are very helpful as well. If you go to the Skill Crush website, you'll be able to find, or if you Google Skill Crush, 25 best sites for finding remote work, you'll get to their link for this year. The website Proven has a list of more than 100 actually job boards for job seekers and recruiters. And RyRob publishes a list of freelance job websites to help you get remote freelance work. So from all of these sites, the big sites to the smaller niche or more specialty sites, you can then sort of formulate the best place for you to go and look for jobs on job boards. But there are a few other things. As I mentioned, alumni association or any other professional associations can be really beneficial in helping you locate job listings. And don't be shy about the fact that you are looking for a job. Lean into your friends, your family, your neighbors, your community, and your professional network. That can really help you as well. And as we sort of talk, and I mentioned the N-word, networking, this is a really critical part to your job search as well. We've talked about identifying companies. You're going to put a strategy in place to look for jobs on the different job sites that work for you, and networking, having conversations with people. If you've not worked remotely before, and you have people in your network, personal or otherwise, that are working remotely, ask them how they're doing it. How did they transition to remote work? What are some of the great things they really like about working remotely or in a flexible position? Or what are some of the things that they, are challenged by or struggle with that they have to be aware of? Of course, you're going to network as well to sort of lean into and have conversations about finding jobs. But don't forget that you can talk to people about how they are working remotely and how they manage that. When you search for remote jobs, there are some keywords that are important for you to think about. There are a few phrases that are going to help you get better results than others. And interestingly, or I guess historically, phrases like work from home and work at home were the phrases that were mostly used by scammers offering fake remote jobs. And we typically recommended people to steer clear of them. But since 2020, we've seen a big increase in legitimate companies using those phrases. So if you do see the phrase work from home or work at home, we recommend that you still take precautions and do a little bit more research, because scammers are still using that language, of course. But it's also important to know that it does not necessarily mean it with certainty that it is a scam. Employers are going to use a lot of different phrases to describe their remote and flexible jobs. What we've found is that words like telecommute, virtual, remote, and hybrid are the most common. So it's a good idea to stick to those phrases, or words rather, when you are searching online. We also recommend you look for filters that will allow you to filter for a remote or hybrid or flexible role on any job search website that you use to help you target for the type of job that you're looking for. And of course, one of the things that is really helpful for a lot of people is to expand your search terms beyond just job titles to include things like any industry specific skills or programming like Salesforce or Python, or any soft skills or transferable skills that you have, which can be particularly helpful using those skills when you are looking to make a career change or just job searching in general. Okay, I've talked about scams a little bit, and I want to dive in a little bit more thoroughly to let you know some of the key warning signs of scams. They are definitely unfortunate, but a very real part of a job search, particularly with remote and flexible work. These warning signs, like being contacted with a generic email address from somebody, mikesmith@gmail.com. We are ready to hire you. No interview required. Most legitimate companies, if not all, do have a company email address like mikesmith@apple.com or something like that. So be wary of generic emails. Be wary of a job that comes your way with little to no information. If a company is asking you for money or personal information before you are hired, that is a red flag. You shouldn't have to provide any routing information for your bank account or anything like that prior to having an offer and being onboarded. Now, instant messaging and using an app like WhatsApp or Telegram is something that is a red flag, definitely. We did see over the last couple of years, some companies are doing some pre-screening using text messaging. And so again, it's something to be very cautious about and do some due diligence. If you are offered a job out of the gate without any sort of interview or very minimal interview, not talking to somebody in person, like live on the phone, and there's a big urgency to get started, that's something to, kind of take pause over and really think through and do some additional research. Sometimes URLs, companies will also fake their URLs or make a page that is identical to a career page or another page. I fell for this with Apple, actually. Someone called and said they got into my computer and they had a website. It looked just like the Apple support page. So it's usually something really brief or very small that's different in the website, like www.gecareers.com, when actually the real site is jobs.gecareers.com. So these are things that you want to be careful of. And everybody that we've talked to, including myself, who's been a victim of a scam, says that in their gut, they knew something didn't seem right. So also you need to trust your instincts. And before you move on with any of these opportunities that, or supposed opportunities that are coming your way, do some due diligence so you don't get stuck in the scam. Here are some ways that you can search to see if the company has had scams before. So one thing that you could do for any company or job is open a new browser window on your computer and search the company name and the job title, like GE Customer Service Representative, and then add the word scam. When you do that, the results are going to show you any, scams, any FBI information or BBB complaints or any news related to scams and that company. The other thing that you can do is open a new browser, search for the company name like Apple and Careers, and then go to the actual career page of the company and compare the job that you are reviewing to the company career page to make sure that that is available. Because if someone came to you and sent you a message about a job, you want to definitely verify that it's an actual opportunity on the website. Okay, so once you've found some companies and you've identified some job listings and you know they're not scams, you want to make sure that as you apply, you position yourself in the best light in your flexible job applications. So here are some skills that are required, or I guess required isn't the right word, but what we know when we survey employers at FlexJobs, these are the top skills that they say time and time again are important for their remote workers. And those skills are written and verbal communication. Of course, that seems obvious, but it really is important to have really great communication skills when you work in a remote environment. Sometimes you're going to be working at the same time as your colleagues, and other times you might not be working at the same time, but you still have to figure out how to communicate. It's important to have good task management skills. Along the same lines as having good communication, I think being confident enough to be proactive in the questions that you're asking and speaking up if you don't understand something, because the burden of understanding what is being asked of you, you take that on as an employee. And so you want to be proactive in getting the clarity that you need. Being comfortable with technology, and more importantly, I think, or equally as important, is troubleshooting. If something's not going right, what is it that you can do? If you're listening, for example, sometimes we have if there's a problem when we get onto a webinar, we have to do some troubleshooting on our end. What is it if you're meeting a client and you're going to do a Zoom meeting and it's, storming and your internet went down? How are you going to troubleshoot your way through that? You do not have to be an expert in technology, unless that's your job. But you do have to have, the know-how and the confidence to be able to troubleshoot when there's issues. Growth mindset, if anything that we've learned over the last 4 years, it's that change is constant. So making sure that you can embrace change and you're willing to learn new things is important to employers. And in line with technology tools, those digital communication tools to help foster adequate and proactive communication amongst a team and a company is really important too. And we'll go over those right now, because these are some of the skills that are easy to build, some of these digital communication tools. So a couple things, there are skills like instant messaging. There are video conferencing skills. You probably recognize some of these: Zoom, GoToMeeting, Google Hangouts, document collaboration through Google Workspace, Google Drive, or Microsoft OneDrive. And then there's virtual office environments like Microsoft Teams. So oftentimes we get asked, how do you know which ones to learn? Our first piece of advice is, as you're reviewing job postings, make note of the technology skills that are preferred or required, and, kind of tally those. And the ones that are mentioned the most frequently is how you can prioritize your list. So if you look at 10 jobs and you see Google Drive or Google Workspace mentioned 10 times out of 10, and Microsoft Teams is not mentioned or is only mentioned 3 times, I would prioritize doing, Google first and then going into Microsoft. So that's how you can prioritize those. Usually you'll be able to find great tutorials on YouTube for most of these programs, or resources, just, using a internet search browser and typing in, how can you quickly learn these tools. Also, many of them do offer like a free 2-week trial or something like that. So that's a really nice thing to have too. All right. As you've sort of taken stock of the skills that you have, you want to then transfer that to your resume. It's something that you should update specifically when you are, for every job you need to update and tailor your resume, but specific to flexible and remote jobs, you definitely want to include any remote work experience that you have. Now, that previous remote work experience includes working from home, whether occasionally or all of the time. Again, it doesn't have to be a formal arrangement. If you had a flexible schedule or you worked part-time, if you ever communicated with people at your company who were at a different location, or, you called or emailed people from different locations, that's a form of remote work, even if it's not formalized. So you can highlight these skills. If you ask yourself for any potential experience that you have, would you be able to talk about how you were productive and effective when you were working or doing remote activities? And if the answer is yes, then it definitely counts. If you definitely don't have any remote or flexible experience, you're going to want to highlight your flexible work skills that we've been talking about and tout your technology know-how, which we've talked about and we're going to talk about in a couple slides again. So if you do have remote work experience, there are some different ways that you can highlight that on your resume. You can say fully remote work, in different locations underneath the job title, underneath the date. Instead of putting a location, you could put it with the location. If you worked hybrid, you could put what percentage of remote work you did. You also could include hybrid work instead of a percentage of remote work. So there's a few different options for you there. Also, in your summary section at the top of your resume, you definitely want to highlight the skills you have for the job that you are applying for, but also highlight some of those key remote work skills, particularly if they're mentioned in the job posting. You can see I've underlined a couple things in different bullets, like written and verbal communication skills, in situations requiring accurate communication with management, project managers, and local or remote teams. 6 years experience working remotely and in flexible office environments. And in the bottom summary, skilled at team collaboration while working independently in remote environments. Now back to technology skills. So having a technology skills section on your resume is another really great way to show employers you're comfortable with technology and which programs you are familiar with specifically. So as you learn more of these collaboration tools and programs that we've talked about today, you can add them to this section, and you can add them in a number of different ways. If the job posting says something like Microsoft Office specifically, you could add that to the technology section. You could also say effective when communicating remotely over the phone, email, and video chat. You could also say tools used for effective remote work. And actually, if I go back to the top one, the bottom bullet says adapts quickly to new and changing technology. If you remember, we talked about embracing change and being willing to learn new things is important to remote employers. This sometimes is a really nice bullet to include in this section as well. All right. Before we get into our questions, here are some action steps that you should take as we wrap up today. You want to research your field. recognize what types of work and opportunities are out there. You want to do some self-reflection and identify your remote-friendly skills and experience so that you can then update your resume, your LinkedIn profile, your cover letters, and then be in a position to tailor those documents for each job that you apply for. Again, always keep in mind that networking is a crucial part of the job search. So start interacting with them as you're working through this process. And then, of course, the final piece of, kind of executing this is submitting the application or the applications and then kind of working from there. So we are going to go into questions that people have. Before we do, just a quick reminder, we are emailing a copy of this with the resources to you within the next few days. And if you need any other resources in the interim, make sure to look at the flexjobs.com blog because there's so much information there that can be helpful for any stage in your job search. So let's go ahead and get to our questions. Hey, you guys, it's Tony. I'm here today to answer your questions. I wanted to say hi and show my face. Let's see what questions we have. Lots of good questions. I know that in this particular webinar, we cover a lot of information about remote work and the job search and all of those things. So there are a lot of different topics that we cover. So we'll get to as many questions as we can. The first one is, I have 20 years experience working remote. How do I highlight that without showing my age? Well, hopefully some of the information we went over with what to do on your resume resonated with you in terms of listing what jobs that you have that were remote. Certainly, as you're asking this question, you don't need to go back 20 years on your resume for your work experience section. The other thing you can do in your profile summary section is just say more than 5 years of remote work experience or remote home office setup is complete or something along those lines. But you might just say, 5+ years of remote work experience in your profile summary, and then list what jobs you had that were remote so they can see the depth of remote experience that you actually have. All right, let's see. Next question. All right. Can you clarify the location requirements, please? Sometimes I see a state listed as well as a United States or U.S. national. How do we read these requirements? Also, if several states are listed, does that mean anyone can apply since several locations are included? Great question. And I thought what I would do is share my screen. I actually saw this question and I did a quick jobs search on the FlexJobs site. So here I just typed in the word marketing and didn't put anything else in. And I wanted to highlight this marketing manager job right here because, and it popped open. So here we are. So the location says US national. So they're hiring anywhere in the US, except they are not hiring in Alaska, Arkansas, Hawaii. You could see there's several other states there. So anywhere that you live in the US outside of those states, you would be qualified geographically, if you will, for the job. So you would not be excluded from the job pool if you applied and you lived in California. Now, if you live in Alaska and you apply for this job, you're not going to have a match to the geography that the company is looking for, the location. And so I wouldn't recommend that you apply to that job if you live in one of those other states where this company is not hiring from. A couple other things, that are listed on here. I wanted to show, like this job, they are hiring in Amsterdam, Netherlands. This is U.S. national, meaning any of the 50 states is available, or they can hire somebody from any of those 50 states. You can see some of these other jobs, say London, San Mateo, California. So even more specific than one state, it's a city within a state. This role, head of marketing, can be located in Los Angeles or Melbourne. So this is why it's really important for you to list your location as you are looking for jobs on the FlexJobs site. Other sites likely do this as well, but that way you know that any of the search results that you have are jobs that are available to you based on where you live. Now, if you would like to work from anywhere in the world, or based on your location, you're not finding a ton of remote jobs, what you could do is you could also search for jobs that are for anywhere in the world. And all of those jobs that would pop up in that list would be available to you no matter where you are. Now, I will say that those jobs are fewer and far in between. The bulk of the jobs that are on the FlexJobs site are North America based, but we do have jobs that span the globe, certainly. Hopefully that's helpful. Um, can you comment on trends about data entry positions really looking for playing games or fill out surveys? I consider this a bit of scammy and not really looking for a true employee or associate. It's interesting that you asked this question, because I actually was working with a reporter several weeks ago who was talking about, jobs for retirees, and what came up were things like filling out surveys, mystery shopping, watching, there's a Netflix type job, watching shows and ranking shows and things like that. And yes, they do feel and seem like they might be a scam. There are legitimate companies that offer this type of employment. However, they're typically not full-time roles. They typically don't pay a lot of money. Most of them are remote. They are pretty flexible in terms of the time that you put into it. So it's not something that you're going to make a ton of money doing, but there are legitimate companies out there. So if you see a job that is a mystery shopper or fill out these surveys, I would look at the company that's listing the job. I would do a search for BBB and the company, or that company and the word scam, to see if you can come up with anything, just to verify before you go on further in the process, about inquiring about the job or actually doing the job. There's also a few, like getting paid to lose weight. And actually, recently, I have seen some commercials on TV about those types of jobs. So they are out there. Again, in the research that I did when preparing to speak to that person, it's not a ton of work, or it's as much work as you're able to do, and it's generally not for a lot of money. Um, Remote trends for Canadians. We are, the trends that I gave are, of course, US based. I would say that probably the trends in other areas, in other countries, particularly Canada and maybe countries in Europe, probably are mirroring, but I don't have exact data for Canadians. I am looking for Canada-based remote jobs, and I don't find many jobs on these flex jobs. Is this only for the US market? And I have 6 years of experience in quality assurance testing. Yeah, so we do have jobs that are available for people in Canada. You can search using, your country name or the province and city that you are in. You will find Canadian jobs. You will find jobs that are available for work from anywhere, which would apply to you in Canada, of course. But certainly the number of jobs from Canada are not as high as they are from the United States or US national jobs, because we are a US based company. So there are, you can sort of manage your expectations in that way, in terms of it might take you a little while longer to land a remote job, or just keeping in mind that where you live, specifically Canada or otherwise, there may not be as many remote opportunities as there are in some of the organizations and places in the United States. Let's see. Do you see baby boomers soon to be forced out of the job market as they fall behind technology, regardless of how much seminars, classes they take? I don't think so. Certainly, you will be hindering your potential opportunities if, as an older worker, you are not keeping up with the trends and the technology, particularly related to the specific type of work that you are looking for. Now, in general, when you work remotely or even in a hybrid position, you do have to have some technology skills. So it's important to keep up with those. I think there are a lot of organizations out there who look to and are excited about hiring older workers because of the experience, the wisdom, the mentoring potential that they bring to an organization, and having a workforce that is diverse in age and other areas, of course, is really beneficial to companies. And many companies do realize that. That being said, as an older worker, you certainly want to position yourself as a strong candidate for those roles, and keeping up with technology tools is one way that you can do that. Does FlexJobs have any plans to add an additional search filter for remote jobs that you don't have location requirements? We have that already. That is a work from anywhere job. So what you can do is, in the job search, you can type the location work from anywhere and anywhere in the world. And then these would be all the marketing jobs that are available from working anywhere in the world. So already that filter is available to you. Another work from anywhere question. Could you please provide additional details on work from anywhere type jobs? Are there visa requirements, especially if a job is posted for a company in a US or other countries? So these work from anywhere jobs should not have any specific visa requirements, because the company has already determined that they can hire people that work from anywhere. Now, if there is a specific requirement, it will be listed in the job posting, or it should be listed within the job posting. And I'm just scanning this to see if it mentions anything about a visa, because sometimes a company may have that requirement and you could still work from anywhere. Any question that you have, if you're looking to work from anywhere, or you are outside of the United States or North America looking to work for a North American company, I would do some searches on Google or on FlexJobs site, or I know we have a little information, but not a ton. We are not specialists in visa requirements for people who want to work outside of the country in which they reside. But there is information out there that you should be able to find, online by doing a little bit of research. So if you find a company that you're interested in and you know that they provide visas, or they have a visa work program, then one of the things that you can do is try to sort of network or build relationships within that organization. So when jobs become available, or they're open, or somebody, they're thinking of you for the type of work that you are interested in. So you're building relationships, to sort of help set you up for future success down the road if something doesn't come available right now in your current job search. All right, this might be the last question, so let's see what it is. Clearly, the future is here. AI is taking over, and I wonder what training we can do now to beef up our resumes that we know how to use AI in an admin job, even because of our age. Yeah, so I would get familiar with tools like ChatGPT, Google Bard. There are others out there. Those are the two that we have talked about, and we have webinars on the topic. So if you're interested in learning more, you could start there. I would start playing around with those types of things. If you are an administrative assistant or in an admin job, simply ask AI, how can this tool help me with an administrative role in a law firm or something like that, whatever industry you're in. And really start to get the hang of it. For example, we use AI to help give us ideas for content for webinars, for specific things that we can talk about in our webinars, or to match, some of the things that we're seeing or reading, and, kind of meeting the demand in that way. And so getting familiar with it is great. And once you are familiar with it and you're comfortable using it, in the technology section of your resume, you could go ahead and add AI tools with a semicolon, ChatGPT, Google Bard, etc., or whatever tools you are specifically concentrating on. And that's how and where I would add it to a resume once you feel confident that you could go to work and be able to use it for efficiency. Some people, I heard somebody at one of our staff meetings the other day say that they sort of type into AI their goals for the week, their to-do list for the week, and they ask them to help formulate the best plan to execute that Monday through Friday. And you really can get a to-do list for the week. And I think in an admin role or an admin type job, that might be a really great thing that you can do. And then if you're doing things like that, you would be able to speak about that in an interview and how you found that AI can do a really great job to help with productivity and efficiency. And here's what you've seen so far. And here's what you've experimented with. And that would be something that would be really impressive to an employer, that you've taken initiative to kind of work through that and you're going in that direction. All right. Great questions, everybody. Thank you for being here today. We always appreciate your time. We're excited for the webinars that we have coming up and what we've been working on. And I know I see some of your comments about ChatGPT being amazing. Yeah, I don't be afraid of it. Play around with it a little bit and see what it can do. I've mostly been using ChatGPT, but recently started trying to work with Google Bard, and I really like that. And so it's kind of fun to get a new tool and see how it might be able to ease some of the constrictions that you have in a workday or with your job search and things like that, and how it can help make you more efficient.